Good morning, this is Daybreak and thank you for staying with us. We are now focusing on the forthcoming National Cassava Conference and Expo 2023. The three-day conference starting tomorrow on the 24th up until the 26th. And this is themed Spearheading Innovation and Technology for Cassava Sector Commercialization. And that event will be happening at the Safari Park Hotel here in the county of Nairobi, with a focus on also boosting the country's food security sector as part of ongoing efforts between state and non-state actors in boosting the country's food security status. Peter Okoth Aluoch is the head of program Self-Help Africa. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time and much appreciated.
And thank
your
you
presence
for welcome.
is highly regarded. And also on my immediate right is Dr. Lusike Wasilwa, the Director Crop System at the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research here in Nairobi, which is part of the important organization that is at the epicenter of this entire progress. First to you, Dr. Talk to us about the significance of this conference, with special focus, of course, on cassava, and why do you think it can help in addressing the country's food security problem?
The beauty about this conference is cassava is a crop that involves youth as some of the actors in the value chain. It's also a crop that is a climate-smart crop with diverse products. So you find cassava in pharmaceuticals, you find it in flours. Now we have a new policy in Kenya for blended flours. So you find cassava as one of those. Cassava is a glue, cassava is a food, it's a feed. Okay. So when you look at the diversity of cassava, you ask yourself, Kenya, why not? Why not look at this crop that is climate-smart, that will actually yield? And it remains okay as long as it's underground. When you harvest, then you start processing. So it creates jobs, and that's why the interest of the youth in cassava value chain.
Okay, Peter, talk to me then about, Dr. points out the climate question, and that is a problem that we are grappling with as a country, as a region, as a continent. Then what is the quantity, specify for us, of cassava that is produced in Kenya?
So thank you. When you look at cassava production and commercialization, it's just a new concept. For a long time, cassava has been ignored and seen as a poor man's crop. But basically, tracing back to from 2013, and when production started increasing, new varieties coming into play, and in 2017, FAO did the first one of the reports that brought clearly Kenyans' focus and projections for cassava. Currently, you look at that data, we are at around 849,000 metric tons total production in the country per year. Okay. And that is distributed across three main regions: for the coastal region, Western Kenya, and also you find some little production of the eastern regions. But significant contributions in terms of production was seen in 2013, and another big one in 2019. 2020 went a bit low. But we are hoping that with the increased demand, which is currently at around 3 million metric tons per year, this production is going to really shoot high, because the gap is so big between demand and what we are producing in the country. So that gap, sometimes the processors and consumers have to import from other neighboring countries, which is not a good thing, but we are mobilizing production locally.
Dr. Lusike, then talk to me about bridging that deficit. I mean, how do we then enhance the production to meet the demand that we have at the moment, as mentioned by Peter, in bridging that deficit and meet our demand as a country?
Yeah, going from about 1 million tons to 3 million tons. What he just mentioned, issues of varieties, we have them. We have good varieties that do well in the coastal region, the central Kenya and also western Kenya. We've got several good varieties. But the problem with cassava production is the work, the drudgery. It's too much. You know, you have to dig those roots out. Some of them can weigh as heavy as almost 500 kilograms, just one root.
So it's labor intensive?
Labor intensive. So because of that, it's very gender friendly. So what we've now brought in with Self-Help Africa is bringing into the country machines that can help in terms of harvesting these roots, because when breeders develop varieties, they are going for increased yield, and therefore the size of the roots. So not everybody is planting like in the coastal region where they plant in sandy soils. In these upland loams, it's difficult. So mechanization will be one major area. Okay. So where the government is trying to support industrialization, mechanization, this is a crop that just fits that profile. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to attain that, I mean, when you talk about technology, the involvement of also other players, to what you say is to produce 1 to 3 million metric tons, up from the current 849,000 metric tons. Yeah. Peter, then, I mean, at what level do you involve other sectors, for example, largely the private sector, for collaboration purposes?
So one of the understanding is that for commercialization really to be achieved in the cassava value chain, we have to get strong muscles to mobilize the private sector to begin to participate. And not just private sector who are buying from the producers, but also looking at the whole value chain. It doesn't exist in a silo, but there's a whole ecosystem. So from equipment and machinery processors. Initially, we used to import chippers from China and from other nations, but currently we have local fabricators who are already doing a lot of chipping, and I think a lot of them are coming in the Expo from tomorrow, so that we also begin to demonstrate technology and how private sector role comes really strong here. So what really happens at the moment is that there's need to mobilize private sector to take up different roles, right from seed systems and production, and also in terms of technology which can best support cassava production, like the use of solar dryers. So that is really coming into strong play, and we are beginning to see a lot of interest, like Dr. Lusike mentioned. Youth are beginning to see the sense that they are all really exist in the cassava value chain. So that paradigm shift is what now begin to make cassava attractive for private sector. Initially, nobody wanted to play there. You'll go around begging companies to come and buy. But right now, with increased demand even for cassava for industrial uses in starch, a lot of fabricators and companies are coming with starch processing equipment, which is basically to us a great achievement. And this is what is going to make cassava attractive. And once people begin to break-even point, get their break-even point margins, and also begin to make profits, then you won't push people to come into cassava. So I think in terms of private sector mobilization, where we are at, we are really beginning to position them, and they're beginning to find their key role into the whole ecosystem. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Lusike, we import and spend billions of shillings on food that we can grow here locally. Cassava is just a representation of what appears to be so many gaps in our food systems in this country. But for the moment, how will it help in boosting food security in Kenya? 1. 2, in the event we upscale our production to the needed limit, as you have said, of 1 to 3 million metric tons a month, will it then stave off the billions we're spending to import food that we can grow here in the country?
Yes, it will, because it's so sad that when we're eating, 80% of what we eat is imported for Kenya. It's so sad. Yet we can grow all these crops. Kenya is a country that is more arid and semi-arid. So therefore, we need those crops and production systems that fit in a more dry environment. So cassava is one of those that will meet to be able to grow well in these dry areas. But the beauty with cassava is the multiple uses, like I said earlier. Cassava is a major starch, you know, so therefore it will attract industry. It can be used as a glue. And then we have a big problem every 7 years with the recurring drought, where there's no, there's very low animal feed. Cassava is also an animal feed. But even the leaves also, the ones that are not high in cyanide, it's used as a vegetable. So you start looking at all these multiple uses from cassava. And even now, cassava being blended in flours, now you're using cassava to make bread. Okay. Therefore, you're reducing your wheat inputs, the wheat imports into Kenya. And then when it comes to pharmaceuticals, Kenya does quite a bit of pharmaceutical development. So cassava is one of those that is used to thicken some of those syrups, particularly for children. So when you look at the diversity of cassava and the varieties we have, and now that we have more safe cassavas, they're not so bitter or high in cyanide. They're very high and tolerant. The only thing we have to do in Kenya is provide sufficient planting material.
Okay.
And now we've come up with the rapid multiplication technologies that we're deploying tissue culture technology to be able to rapidly produce these cassavas that are clean. Clean meaning that they don't have viruses. So just like how human beings have HIV, cassava also has cassava mosaic disease and cassava brown streak virus. So you want to give the farmer clean planting materials. Once they start clean, then now we teach them how to grow them, the good agriculture practices, so that they can stop from getting 11 tons per acre to going up to 20, even 40 tons per acre. That's where we're heading. Kenya has been quite slow in terms of development of cassava, but finally, because of climate change and issues, this crop's profile has now raised up to being a priority crop for the country in terms of our food, in terms of our feed. Also, the thing with cassava, it's one of those good flours that you can eat and you don't have allergies to eating them when it comes to bread. It's very good in terms of dietary for hospitals. So you can see the multiple uses of cassava and why we're having this conference here to really create awareness on the importance of this crop. This is the gold of Kenya.
All right.
Yeah.
And Peter, then, Dr. pointed out earlier, and as she made her submissions, also being labor intensive, the need to deploy technology and machines to easily extract because of the weight. But is there enough awareness around it? And are the farmers in a position to understand more about what's needed in order to boost from where we are to the required demand, as you have mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think this is the role of development agencies and also the government and all stakeholders who are working on the cassava value chain. For a long time, many farmers have known cassava just for their local consumption. But a lot of campaigns have been going on. You remember 2019 when the government started the promotion of root and tuber crops, and which led to the development of the roots and tuber crop strategy of 2019 to 2022. And because of that strategy, there is a big push to start promoting roots and tuber crops in the different counties. When you look at the roots and tuber crops that we are growing in Kenya, cassava really stands out to be advantageous, and a lot of farmers beginning to embrace, and there is a shift from cassava being a crop that kills people because of the cyanide levels, and also to begin to see safe uses of cassava, especially those that are friendly with low cyanide levels. And the ministry has done quite a lot of work in terms of promoting, and also CALRO, promoting safe varieties which have low cyanide levels. So as a result of those campaigns, we've seen a lot of awareness coming down from the farmers. You can see right now our total acreages for cassava production is around 61,300 and something hectares in Kenya. The acreages have not expanded, but in terms of production, there is a bit of increase. You look at 2020, it has shifted from 845 to 980 something metric tons. But the acreages are not increasing. It means the farmers who are doing cassava are continuing to do more. So that means awareness in terms of some margins, profit margins are beginning to be witnessed. But also the government has been working so strongly with development partners on the issues of flour blending regulation, which has now brought a lot of companies on private sector on board to start also thinking of, can cassava be blended with other products so that we have a certified product on the shelves? And these are issues that farmers get to understand, that if cassava can be blended and certified by KEBS to be on the shelves, then there is need to continue producing more, because the market is going to be there for sure. So we really believe that development agencies like Self-Help Africa, the government, other stakeholders in the cassava value chain speaking the language in a manner that farmers can begin to understand and mobilize more production from the farmers.
Okay.
Yep.
Dr. Lusikia, then, when Paul talks about the awareness around the same, is the infrastructure right? I mean, because the UN estimates that 13% of the food is wasted between the farm and the fork. So is the right infrastructure also in place, even as we focus on the production, to help the farmers transport their produce, cassava to be specific, from the farm to the market to meet the demand?
The thing with cassava, it's one of those crops that when you harvest, you have 48 hours to transform it to another product. If you don't do that, you cannot eat it. It becomes very poisonous. So cassava, you have to be really fast. So the issues of infrastructure, we don't have it. We don't have the good infrastructure to store. So when some farmers harvest now, there are many technologies to reduce the post-harvest losses, where we mimic like they're still underground, but they're not. So that way you can now increase the shelf life of harvested cassava by about a month. Or now we're trying to borrow from South America, like Brazil or Honduras, where after they harvest the roots, they cover them with some wax substance. Then that way, again, you increase the shelf life from 48 hours to 1 month.
Okay.
So that's the thing about cassava. So what in Kenya we've traditionally done is that when cassava is harvested, it's peeled, it's chipped or grated and dried. Once it's dried, you're good. You've increased the shelf life to almost a year.
Okay.
But
do we have that capacity here?
Okay. The capacity is there, but it's the amount of work. And where are the youth now? The youth are in ICT. So what we need to do is mechanize the cassava at the farm level, so that after the farmer harvests, then we have natural peelers, automated peelers and chippers. And then systems like now what we call the high tunnel greenhouses that are used for growing tomato, instead transform those to drying cassava, because there are very many right now in the landscape not being utilized, so that we can now reduce losses. Because the post-harvest losses for cassava, unlike other crops, you said 10, 15%, cassava 100%.
Okay.
And that will happen within the past 48 hours.
So you have to do something within 2 days?
Within 2 days. So in other words, we don't even wait for the 2 days, immediately.
Okay.
When you're harvesting, for cassava, you need to know in the next 1 or 2 hours what's going to happen to that crop. So you need a major labor force, but which is not there. And that's why we're now bringing in a lot of mechanization. The chippers, as my colleague has said, we have many. They're inexpensive. They've been fabricated in local areas. And the only thing with the cassava is to organize the market of these, like the chips, the dried chips. That is where we have a big problem. But now that in Kenya we're automating, digitizing all the farmers, now there's a process that's going to be put in place so that when farmers harvest, you know how much they've harvested and what the amount, the content of dried chips that are available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter, then, I mean, here in the past 5 years, a lot has happened. We had the locust invasion, the COVID-19 pandemic, the prolonged drought, uncertainties across the globe following wars that had affected the global food supply chain. With a focus on now this and our very own homegrown solutions to address our food security problems, is this going to be the immediate fix to our food security problem? 1. 2, what is the prospect of this having a positive impact on employment of young Kenyans? Is this likely going to resolve that other part as well?
Thank you. I think it is not going to be an immediate fix because there are quite a number of hurdles that we need to overcome. For example, currently a lot of farmers have been suffering from pest and disease because most of the varieties we are having have been prone to a lot of, they've been susceptible to this pest. So what has happened is that we are working on new varieties together with Calro that are more resistant, high yielding, and also have got, based on the market demand, whether for starch or for cooking, we are looking for those varieties which can cut across. So until the seed system solution is found, like we are working on that, then we can say farmers now have access to clean seed which are available and that may increase production. So at that level, when we can increase production, then we can say that we are fixing quite a number of problems that, like when we are talking about the maize deficit, which we are working to fix using cassava. So we have to work on those hurdles. Another thing is when it comes to new technologies, we are working in a lot of collaboration with private sector to improve technology. Like Dr. Adi said, it is a heavy work to process cassava. So can we get automatic systems, machines that will do the chipping, the washing, the peeling? So by the time it is finished, it moves straight away to the dryer. Okay. But even at the dryer, you need strong solutions. When we introduced the dryer technology, so we used to dry for quite a number of days, like 2 days. But with improved technology, installing solar systems, that has been reduced to even 8 hours. So we still feel that, and then also in terms of production, farmers have to be mobilized more. Like I mentioned, the flour blending regulation gives around 10% flour blend from cassava. So when this regulation is passed, the question is, are the farmers increasing production? Are we increasing more acreages? So we have to really begin to work with the ministry and other partners on the ground to mobilize farmers to be able to meet that gap. And then we can begin to fix some of those problems. But now, in terms of the youth and job creation, I think cassava present great opportunities for a lot of jobs to be created along the way. It requires heavy labor from production, harvesting, processing, and then now cassava moving into the market. That labor can only be done by people sometimes. A lot of it can be done by people and not machineries. So youth have got the advantage of technologies like the use of solar dryers. We have also been introducing another technology using the Nuru app, where you can simply walk into the farms and use the Nuru application to diagnose plant disease. And these are issues, areas which youth can easily pick up very quickly to support farmers, because the farmers cannot interpret those data. So like when you just point it on the leaf of the plant and there is a disease there, they can quickly see that and begin to provide solutions for that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in terms of labor provided within the cassava value chain. When you look at the amount of waste coming from cassava peels, that peel can be recycled, taken for animal feed production or maybe for fertilizer, manure. And these are areas where a lot of young people can find opportunities to begin to work around that and create jobs.
Okay. Dr. Lusike, then I see the European Union is a key partner in this conference and is funding the project. What's the prospect of gaining from that cooperation and tailoring it for the use of the local demand, in the sense that there's a beneficial outcome to that effect and gain from their technology as well, which is a big market?
Yeah, with the support from the EU, a lot of segments along the cassava value chain that were sleeping have been woken up. So you're looking in terms of sustainability, because the funding will only last for so long. After that, it has to be now Kenyans and our efforts to be able to achieve in terms of commercialization of the cassava value chain. So with the support from the EU, what it has done, it has given us that uplifted leverage where we're able to partner, let's say, research now with the private sector, where the private sector can demand certain technologies, because the private sector wants to make money. And once they make money, they create the pool towards growing of cassava. So the private sector can operate in all. You know, most people think private sector will come at the market, and no. The private sector can be, from the beginning of the value chain, producing the planting material, because cassava is a tricky one. Before, we used to plant cassava using canes that were almost 2 to 3 feet long. But now we've changed that cane to just a segment of nodes, where a node will be about 2 to 3 inches. So from one, we're getting 10. Then now we've even improved it better. And all of this, the private sector comes in because each cane was 5 shillings. Now, when you come to the node, you think you're going to reduce it to like 50 cents. No, that node will still be 5 shillings because it's a plant. And then we now go towards using those nodes and then now deploying tissue culture technology, where we now go from 1 of those nodes producing 10, and then 10 multiplying up to 30. So all of those areas where we're now generating a lot of planting material, that is where the private sector comes in. Okay. The private sector also, in terms of through the funding from the EU coming to support us, is the diversification of products from cassava. Most of the times we're first dealing with food security, food and nutrition security, or food or feed and nutrition security. But now with the private sector coming in, we start looking at roots that are even high in starch, roots that are very high in the dry matter content. We're looking at even cassava is used to make alcohol, so we look at those roots with those high levels of alcohol for the issue of bioenergy, because we're now becoming green. So you're looking at the diversification of a particular crop. And to be able to do that in terms of with the EU funding, that is able to help us in terms of releasing varieties of cassava. So you are getting nice varieties with very tailored names like Tajarika. Tajarika, you know, you say, hey, I'm going to get rich here. Karembo, oh, this thing is so beautiful. You know, we're doing whatever it is for sustainability, to create interest, to continue to attract the private sector, to ensure that the youth are coming in, and for the researchers to see where they can partner closely with the private sector to commercialize this particular crop. Because many times the researchers are by themselves, the private sector is by itself, and that's when it's not working. But through funding of the EU, all these different segments along the value chain have been working together, including the farmer who controls everything. What does the farmer want?
Okay. Peter, then what are the limitations for access to finance to undertake this project?
Yeah, access to finance has been a huge challenge. I think, like for us, Self-Help Africa, we've struggled with it for a long time. But then not like cassava is not attractive. So banks will not like to fund cassava because the systems have not been so much strong. But currently, we have been working on different models that are suitable for cassava, and so that we break the challenges, we overcome the challenges of farmers and aggregation centers and private sector not accessing finances. So models like trade financing. So because private sector interest is increasing, so we are hoping that the increased interest from private sector will lead to models around trade financing, so that through LPOs, farmers can be financed or aggregation centers can be financed. Models around VSLAs, village savings and loaning schemes, are being promoted currently, which are not really so attractive still, but then they are working, they are beginning to work because farmers are beginning to get organized into groups. Those groups were never existing, and if they existed, they were more of self-help and not commercially oriented. But now the commercial orientation of groups within the cassava value chain is making them also now attractive to the banks. In this program, EU funded financial component of this cassava project by allocating some funding to ensure farmers get access to those funding. So what we've done is to develop a product that is relevant to cassava and also relevant to the farmer's need, so they can access that.
Dr. Lusiki, one final question and brief. What are the expected outcomes of the conference, and who are you targeting during this conference, which will start tomorrow?
Actually, we're targeting the youth. We're also targeting Kenyans in totality. We want them to know that there's another crop called cassava. It's not always just maize in terms of a carbohydrate. We have a super carbohydrate, what we call the African white gold, that we're trying to make people aware of, that cassava is not just eaten as boiled roots or fried roots, but cassava can actually provide food for Kenyans and then feed for the livestock, and to show them that cassava has a lot of financial opportunities. That's what we're targeting. It's all about money. How much money can we put in our pockets and how much food can we eat in terms of meeting food and nutrition security? And that's what we want to show them, that cassava, watch that space. Forget maize. Want to dethrone maize.
Diversify.
Yeah, diversify. Yeah. Dethrone maize, diversify. Yeah.
Okay, yes, Peter, final comments briefly.
Yeah, I think we are really, like Dr. said, we are targeting youth and private sector. We just want everybody to come and see the progress we made within cassava value chain, and also interact with the key players within the value chain, from equipment fabricators and also producers, from aggregators, from processors, from starch making companies. So we are targeting almost the whole ecosystem, service providers who are responsible for standards. The government is there, KEBS is coming, KEFI certification. So everybody is being targeted in this conference, and that is our aim, that at the end of the day, we have interacted, we understood the progress and where we are and what still is pending, so that we can make cassava a commercial product.
Thank you. Your time is all appreciated. Peter Okoth Aluwoch, the head of program Self-Help Africa, your time is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
the brief conversation. And to you, Dr. Lusika Wasilwa, the director crop system at the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research, KALRO, your time is all appreciated. And we all look forward to the National Cassava Conference and Expo 2023, which will happen at the Safari Park Hotel starting tomorrow, the 24th to the 26th of this month, which is themed Spearheading Innovation and Technology for Cassava Sector Commercialization, and we'll be looking forward to that. Up next is Sporty Monday, and the gang of four will be here. All you need to know about the mess with the Toffees at Merseyside. Liverpool overcame Everton. The blue side of Manchester, the Citizen finally found a footing. Pep Guardiola's men were back in business. The Reds, however, and the Devils had found revival, otherwise not in the city of Manchester. For some time, the Guns were silenced at the bridge, expecting a demolition of the same, but Arsenal had to find its Arsenal at a later stage of the game. 2-2 draw at the bridge of what was the western side of London, and the 2-2 draw between Chelsea and the Arsenal. All that is up next with the Sporty Monday. I think Declan Rice's goal must be that of the week. Zita will tell us more on the scoreboard. Up next is them. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the broadcast. Good morning.